Hey there, 8th graders, and welcome back to today's Explainer. Today, we are going to uncover how historical religious revivals completely changed the world. We're talking about crowds so massive and beliefs so strong, they literally altered the course of American history. We're stepping back into a time when faith wasn't just some quiet, personal belief kept behind closed doors. No, it was a massive catalyst for societal shift. So get ready to see exactly how the beliefs of the past built the reform movements that shaped our present.
So, let's just dive right into our core question for today. What actually makes people willing to sacrifice for others? I mean, think about it. What turns a simple thought held in someone's mind into a roaring, world-changing action in the streets? This transition from a single thought to massive action is the entire driving force behind the historical eras we're exploring today.
All right, here's our roadmap for today. 1. The First Great Awakening. 2. The Second Great Awakening. 3. Camp meetings and community. 4. Faith fuels social reform. 5. Let's review your homework. And 6. Education needs biblical morality. Let's get into it.
We're actually starting things off with a pretty powerful biblical anchor from Matthew chapter 5, verse 16. It says, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." This is our guiding theme for today. It reminds us that true belief naturally fuels action. It's not meant to be hidden away, It's meant to be actively demonstrated through the good deeds we do to uplift society.
Section 1. The First Great Awakening, the spark of personal faith.
Take a look at the timeline here. Notice that distinct gap? We're looking at a massive 70-year jump between the First Great Awakening in the 1730s and 40s and then this second wave hitting decades later in the early 1800s. These weren't just passing fads. They were monumental, history-making waves of revival that fundamentally shaped the mindset of a growing nation.
So back in the 1730s and 40s, the First Great Awakening was driven by these incredibly powerful preachers, guys like George Whitefield. And get this, he was famous for having a voice so incredibly loud, they say he could reach crowds of thousands, literally thousands, without a microphone. Crazy, right? Well, he actively used that voice to challenge the established churches and the rigid status quo of the time. Instead of wanting people to just go through the motions of tradition, Whitefield urged them to seek personal salvation and live directly according to God's word. So this first wave, it was intensely internal. It was all about securing your personal, individual relationship with faith.
Section 2. The Second Great Awakening, the fire spreads.
But how exactly did that personal, internal spark from the 1700s turn into, a roaring fire of action across the nation in the 1800s? We're seeing a massive evolution of thought right here. The movement shifted, moving away from just focusing on personal, internal faith to this sweeping demand for community engagement and social action. The Second Great Awakening took that internal belief and just projected it outward. It wasn't just about saving yourself anymore. It was about saving your community and fighting the social evils right outside your door.
Section 3. Camp meetings and community, the how of the awakening.
Okay, so how exactly did this second movement spread so fast and effectively across the country? The answer lies in this incredible phenomenon known as camp meetings. I want you to literally close your eyes and imagine this. You're at a massive, days-long camp meeting in the early 1800s. You're outdoors and you are surrounded by hundreds, maybe even thousands of people praying and singing together. It was this deeply immersive experience that took isolated folks and brought them together into a super passionate community. And why were these gatherings so incredibly popular? Well, it was kind of a perfect storm. You had preaching that spoke right to the heart, this amazing sense of community worship, and honestly, most importantly, an undeniable call to action. These gatherings, they weren't just about feeling good for a few hours. They forged deep emotional connections and basically issued a direct challenge to believers. Go out and actively improve your communities.
Section 4. Faith fuels social reform, the reform ripple.
And that brings us to the why this matters part, how faith actually stepped out of those camp meetings and into the streets to improve society. Take Charles Finney, a major leader during the Second Great Awakening. He explicitly taught that your personal faith absolutely must result in helping others. His exact words, "True conversion should lead to helping others and improving society." Finney really connected the dots for the public here. He made it crystal clear. If your heart was truly transformed, your actions toward your fellow human beings had to transform as well.
Because of this kind of powerful teaching, people left these revivals absolutely determined to fight social evils. They took things that were previously seen as just, political causes and turned them into high moral missions. Faith became the ultimate motivator for public service.
Believers threw themselves into huge movements: abolition, women's rights, temperance, fighting poverty. They basically became the boots on the ground for social change.
Let's look specifically at abolition for a second, the movement to end slavery. These revivals were a massive support engine for abolitionists. They fought against the horrific evil of slavery by convincing everyday citizens that it wasn't just some political debate, but a profound moral sin. And when you see abolition as a moral imperative to end a sin, well, that makes people far more willing to risk absolutely everything to see it abolished.
Section 5, let's review your homework. Knowledge check. All right, time to put all this to the test with a quick review of your homework questions. For question 1, did you remember George Whitefield? He was our key figure from the First Awakening, urging that personal salvation. And for question 2, remember how the Second Awakening shifted gears entirely? It focused heavily on social action, taking your faith and actually using it to better society. Moving on to question 3. How did camp meetings inspire? Well, those emotional camp meetings were basically the engine of the whole thing. They built a deeply connected community of believers through shared worship. And for question 4, why did revivals lead directly to reform? Because leaders like Charles Finney taught that true faith demands public service. Believers felt morally compelled to turn their religion into real-world political activism.
And finally, question 5 asks how revival preaching shifts a person's priorities. I mean, really think about it. When people truly believe their actions serve a higher, divine moral purpose, it completely flips their priorities upside down. They look past their own selfish needs and willingly sacrifice their time, their money, and their comfort for the well-being of others. It's a total game changer.
Section 6. Education needs biblical morality, the big takeaway.
So, how does this history apply directly to your lives right now, especially through our philosophy here at HeroesMart Academy? Well, we deeply intertwine biblical morality with education because, frankly, education without a moral compass, it usually just leads to painful bad choices. A sharp mind is an amazing tool, but without a foundation of strong morals, that tool can actually cause harm. Honestly, what is the point of being super smart and highly educated if you just keep making choices that hurt yourself and the people around you? Which brings us to our ultimate goal, found in an amazing promise from Romans chapter 8, verses 6 through 7. It literally promises peace of mind to everyone who keeps their minds spiritual. Keeping our minds grounded in these spiritual truths, that brings the true peace of mind that we want you to experience every single day as you engage with our learning.
So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I have a challenge for you. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, how are you going to use what you learn to improve the world around you? Is your education just going to be for you, or will it be the spark that fuels action and uplifts your community? Keep learning, keep growing, and whatever you do, always remember to let your light shine. Catch you next time.